20 years, basically for the entire commercial lifespan of the internet, to a company called ICANN, which is an international organization which includes a number of foreign countries. And it's an unprecedented move, and one that, as Mr. DeMint pointed out, is irreversible. Once we give up this oversight role, we can't get it back. And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people have raised concern. What does this mean for the future of the internet, especially if foreign governments are involved?
Oh, so in other words, why would we even consider giving up this power? I mean, let me give you an example. The U.S. is part of the United Nations. The United Nations is lecturing the United States that we ought to pay reparations. I mean, we pay the majority of money for the United Nations. It screws up traffic in New York, which directly impacts my life, which is kind of selfish, but I'm not sure exactly why we need the UN in New York or even in the United States, as it has proven itself again and again to be historically anti-Semitic and anti-American.
And one of the biggest points I made, and I wrote this 2 years ago when the transition was first proposed by the administration, is, look, the internet is one of the greatest free market, liberty-loving innovations in history. So the burden is on people who want to change how it operates to prove that change is worthwhile. And over the last couple of years, we haven't really seen a case made other than, well, we have to do it because the rest of the world wants us to give up this oversight role. But to me, this is a classic case of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. As I said, the internet has served us well, has served people around the world very well, and if you cherish free expression and free speech rights generally, you should be worried, I think, when there's this oversight role is going to be ceded to potentially foreign governments who might not share our values.
Well, it's pretty unbelievable to me that the United States, why isn't the Senate dealing with this?
Well, they have considered in the so-called CR legislation, including a rider on this. For some reason, it was taken out, and that's one of the things that it's up to Congress to include, of course. But it seems to me there's no rush to get this done. I mean, to me, if we're talking about something as important as the internet, it's far more important to get this right than to get it done right now. And so, I've called on Congress to at least give people additional time to think about these serious issues instead of just rushing.
Well, what is the time frame on this now?
On October 1st, the U.S. government will end its oversight role, so in a few days, basically. And that's why Congress was very focused on trying to get, members of Congress are trying to get this into that continuing resolution bill.
Well, why is the Senate up to now failed to include the language prohibiting this transfer?
That's a good question. We've been trying to figure out as well, and it's a lot of inside baseball, and I'm on the outside at the moment. So, I'm hopeful that this is a bipartisan cause that ultimately will find expression in the legislation.
All right, appreciate you being with us. Thank you. 800-941-SEAN. I guess the only thing I can say is, Congress, you better get in control of your congressman, because otherwise the internet will be run by people that hate the United States, kind of like the UN. All right, let's get to our busy telephones here. Nick is in Indiana. Nick, hi, how are you? And we're glad you called.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Hannity. I'd just like to comment on the debates and the race and the issue of stop and frisk. As a police officer in current-day America, I think when you're looking at the aspect of stop and frisk, it's a very complex issue. And I think it's even more complex than Mr. Trump and Ms. Clinton are viewing it from. And it's my personal opinion that I think Mr. Trump is definitely favorable for law enforcement, and I don't want to see it turn into a race issue. And what I'd like to comment on is, when you're talking about stop and frisk and people bring up race, good police officers profile actions. We don't profile race. Race is a byproduct of that. And that's what draws our attention. So it's been proven to work. I would just like to say maybe we need to look at possibly going back to that or going into something.
Here's the bottom line. What they did in New York, I watched up close and personal, and I saw the success. Now, and I've interviewed Rudy Giuliani a lot about it, and he's the one that implemented it. And what they did was they looked at New York City, and they said 22 to 2,500 murders a year is just out of control. And as the mayor of this city and as the police commissioner of this city, I have an obligation to protect the citizens of this city. And what they did is they they dramatically shifted where police resources were from being maybe central, basically, I guess, duplicated in terms of presence around the city, and they concentrated most of their resources in the neighborhood that had the highest crime statistics, the highest murder rates. And what they did is, by concentrating their resources, which are limited for any big city, but in New York, they have a pretty big police department, 35,000 officers or so. And what they were able to do is dramatically drop the murder rate from what it was, 2,200, 2,500, somewhere around there, to about 300 to 400. Now, if you look at the demographic makeup, that means that a lot of lives, minority lives, were saved. And there are so many good people that feel that they can't even walk outside their door in certain bad neighborhoods in certain cities. And he protected the innocent people that deserve to live in peace. And he also saved lives in the process. Now, I am a licensed gun owner, and if I get pulled over by a police officer and they want to stop me and ask me a question because I look suspicious, let's say I'm in a neighborhood that is known for drug distribution and drug dealing. Okay, drive through, they stop me, they frisk me, and I have my gun on me, I have a gun permit. Now, a lot of times they're finding people with guns that don't have a license, that isn't legal. And they have backgrounds, they have felonies and records and warrants, et cetera, et cetera. It just worked. Do I worry about civil liberties in some ways? Yeah, but I think they balanced it actually pretty well. And I like the success. I like the fact that innocent people's lives are protected and saved. I think that's extraordinarily important if we care about human beings, and I do. I don't want to see people shot. I don't think we need 3,000 people shot since the beginning of this year in Chicago. Nearly 4,000 killed since Obama became president, his hometown of Chicago. I know it didn't make news. It doesn't make news like Trayvon Martin and like Ferguson and like Baltimore. But it should make news because this is an epidemic. Young lives being slaughtered. Innocent children, literally roadkill. They're the innocent victims in this, unending cycle of violence. It's horrible, and it's preventable. Let's prevent it and save lives. Anyway, appreciate it. Let's go to our busy phones. Nancy in Dallas, Texas, on The Answer. What's up, Nancy? How are you? Glad you called.
Hi, Sean. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you for letting me do what I do.
I'm calling about the recent ads by Hillary Clinton that show the little girls, the young girls, and saying that Donald Trump, is this really the type of president we want for our daughters? Well, as a professional mother of twin daughters who will be 13 in December, I unequivocally say that, yes, I would like Trump to be the president over Hillary. This ad is so hypocritical in the face of everything that she has done, everything she's not done, when it comes to all the victims of her husband, the money that she's, and you say this so eloquently, but, all the money that she's taken through her foundation. I'm just incensed, to be honest with you, that these ads, and she's strategically putting them on different channels. It's just so frustrating, Sean, because we who know the truth, and we know that Trump.
Let me ask you a question: is Bill Clinton and her demonizing of women that accuse Bill Clinton, is she a good role model for women?
Absolutely not.
So basically, Donald Trump really could have blasted her, and he didn't, and it showed a lot of restraint, didn't it?
It sure did. It sure did.
Showed more restraint than I think I could have. But anyway,
Absolutely.
Thank you, Nancy, and good luck to your twin daughters too. When I was having kids, I only wanted boys. Then I had my daughter. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. It's just raising a boy and a girl. It's so different and it's so awesome. They both bring so much to the table in so many different ways. It's fun. All right, let's go to our phones. Let us go to Adam in Denver. Adam, how are you?
Good, Sean. How are you?
Good, sir.
Good, sir. Thank you for everything you do and delivering the truth to us deplorables.
We're all deplorable.
Hey, I'm a lowly deplorable welder here in the Rocky Mountains, And I just kind of wanted to weigh in a little bit on Monday night's debate. I've heard a lot of criticism from the Trump corner as far as how there were issues about Hillary that Trump could have brought up and didn't. You know, things like Benghazi, things. I mean, there's a bucket, I would say, of an endless chasm of things that she's that we can call her out on. And I think that I honestly think Trump is going to play it a little smarter than that. I think he's kind of saving the best for last. I mean, I really think that he's.
Listen, as I've been saying, you know, all the stuff that I know. Look, Donald Trump needed to prove that he can withstand her attacks. He did. He also showed very different vision for the future of the country. He was very articulate about taxes, very passionate about crime and law and order and race relations. He did a great job tearing apart our failed foreign policy. But I get it. I know people want him to hit back the way he hit. I understand, and it's all coming. She's not going to get away with 3 debates without Obamacare, Benghazi, pay to play, the Clinton Foundation, the email server, her treatment of women that her husband didn't treat well. Okay, so I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think it's going to be a great finish. You know, I think it's going to be he's saving the best for last. So I can't wait.
All right, I appreciate the call. 800-941-SEAN is our number. Hey, I'm sure you've seen the news where one of the nation's largest banks just paid millions and millions of dollars in fines for their illegal student loan practices. Now, this is one more reason I really want you to save money and check out trysofi.com, trysofi.com.